Welcome to Network Today. I'm Cheryl Powers.
I'm Rob Bliss.
We're here to take you from meeting people to
making money.
Are you getting that into your belly? I hope by now, because we're nearly at this point, 50 episodes. Look at the look on your face.
Oh
I hope
unbelievable.
meeting people to making money faster is in people's belly now. Do you hear people like regurgitate that back to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would love to hear that because, again, I'm going to tell you, Cheryl, it's helped my business tremendously because, again, that's why I look forward to preparing for each week. I'm learning so much from the show, from the topics that we're having, from our guests that are coming here each week. Yes, I am seeing truly, I don't know if it's 5X, I don't know if it's 10X, but I'm making money from what we're doing here on the show.
Yeah, if nothing else, it keeps you focused and always retuning what you're doing for networking when you're involved in the process weekly, daily.
Absolutely, that consistency. And the thing too is, again, is like we've talked about on the show, is that it's not all about making money. It's the friendships, it's the building of relationships that we're talking about. But again, the bottom line still is we have to make money.
Yeah.
And we don't have to be embarrassed about saying that. But again, I want to still emphasize the fact that we're building relationships and strong relationships, authentic relationships.
So you're going to love this relationship that we have with our amazing guest, which is Steve Conwell, who's going to be coming up here in just a bit because we're talking about alumni associations. Networking through alumni associations.
Great topic.
And you were saying that...
Well, you know, what's neat about this is that, I haven't really focused on that, but what's neat when we met with Steve was the fact that, he went to UNT, and that was my old alma mater. And unfortunately, back then they called it NTSU. But again, it created that bond.
Yeah.
Which Steve will go over.
Yeah, and made you and me think about, oh my gosh, we need to tap into our own alumni.
Yes.
So I'm Oral Roberts University, right? And they've got a pretty vivid or, rambunctious online group through, I know, LinkedIn. So I too, I'm tapped into that group on LinkedIn, but I'm not super engaged. And I'm sure that there are DFW chapters. They're just in Tulsa. I mean, it can't be too far from here that there's some chapters that I could get involved in and get to know and support my other alums. So with that, I've got a really great article, right? So before we launch into our Grand Slams and then have our Steve Conwell discussion on alumni, and he's got some brilliant insight.
He sure does.
Here is under topresume.com. I love to Google. So I Googled networking in alumni associations.
Okay.
And this came up, and this is so good. And truly, it talks about both sides of this, building a resume. So you can always have a job, right? So if you're job searching or whatever, alumni are great resources. But before you're looking for a job, you might have a job, and now you're trying to get business, right? So you're trying to build relationships, and that's what this was all about. So under Top Resume, number one was getting reconnected. And I think that for me really struck a chord in our discussion with Steve, was that he's there to help people engage and get reconnected because we had a good time at some point together.
Right.
Probably. Was yours a really good time? On a scale of 1 to 10, what was your good time at NTSU?
My college, well, it was a different experience for me because I had just moved from Canada. So I had just moved to a new country. And so it took, I was still getting used to the American way of life. So it was, it was a little tough for me. Plus the fact that, I lived at home and had to commute 40 miles to school, where I had to make that adjustment because my first 2 years of college, I had my own place and lived near campus. So it was a different country, the educational system a little bit different. So, yeah.
And you spent 2 years there?
Just about 2 years there, yeah.
But by the time you got done with the 2 years...
Oh yeah, it was a great experience. No, I would say my last 2 years were better than my first 2 years. Maybe from a maturity point of view, but again, the American way of life, they're just more open, they're more friendly. It was a great experience.
That's awesome. So now you can reconnect with some of that. All right.
Absolutely.
So get reconnected. Number 2, get involved in your alumni association. I think that goes without saying. And they really talk about volunteering and being on committees to really get involved and reconnected. 3, pick a few events to attend every year. So you don't have to be so actively like Steve is involved. But you don't have to be that involved. You can just be a little involved and still get some benefit from it. Number 4, become a resource. So being a mentor to other students. That's what they mention in here. And I think that's beautiful, being a mentor. Reach out to your fellow alums, which is what we were talking about, doing it socially, or if you're going to go to some of the in-person events, you can do it there for sure. Number 6, commit to staying in touch with key people. So we talk at length, ad nauseum, about being intentional about follow-up. And I think this is no exception.
Right.
Find those key people in the Alumni Association.
Absolutely.
Number 7, alumni associations aren't just for schools. So talking about company alums. Now, I know in the radio world, they do it a lot. And I should probably be more plugged in than I am. And number 8, be a good referral partner and a good people connector. Because alumni, treat your alumni association like a networking group, like a philanthropic organization, like a nonprofit that you might be
that's a great point.
Associated with. So I thought this was a really good article. If you want more information, you can Google it like I did. So networking in alumni associations, or you can ask me for the link. Happy to send it.
All right.
All right. So coming up next, a grand slam. That would be our success story of the week. You got a good one?
I got a good one.
It's brewing. All right. When we come back.
Are you having trouble with your VoIP phone system? Smart Office USA to the rescue. We're a local company here in DFW with real people, certified technicians, and we even come to your office to help you. Smart Office USA, representing the #1 VoIP phone system on the planet. And we are right here in DFW, ready to help you. Call us 214-272-0921 or go to www.smartofficeusa.com.
So, grand slam time. You ready?
My favorite part, and I've got a doozy.
A doozy.
I've got a doozy, and it involves Mid-Market Professionals Dallas.
Oh, my favorite.
Yes. And again, this is again what we're trying to teach in the show is that how to get value out of your networking.
Yeah.
And I got a call last week from someone who I met very briefly at Mid-Market, and he was introducing me to a friend of his because I had talked about Purple Cow branding and what we did, branding and websites. And so this gentleman called me last week and said, I got your name from Omer, and he highly recommends you. And here's the key thing, too, is I had met Omer at MMP, but I followed up with an email requesting a one-on-one, which we had a couple of weeks ago. We had a great one-on-one.
Yeah.
And we're working on actually a kind of a joint deal together that would be beneficial for both of us. And then, boom, I get this call. And again, it just shows you that you do the follow-up after the networking meetings, have those one-on-ones, which are so important.
Yeah.
Because after that, he got to know exactly, he toured my office, got to know exactly what we did, and then he came across a friend of his that he could help.
Oh,
so again,
man.
it was, it shows you that when you take networking seriously, when you're intentional about it, when you do the follow-up, you do the things that you're supposed to do, good things will happen.
Yeah, magically. Yeah, it's not just spontaneous combustion.
No.
Right, so I'm going to try and keep mine brief.
Okay.
But it's a powerful story. So one that I put on LinkedIn just a couple of days ago, and it has to do with relationship building. And I'm headed down to Houston for a series of client meetings. And as I leave early, I get down to, instead of Centerville, I love going to Woody's. That's where I stop.
I love Woody's.
Instead, I'm going to stop in Fairfield. And I think I'm way ahead of schedule. So I'm going to get gas first and then go see my appraisal district client there in Freestone County. And because I did that, thank goodness, I realized as I pull up to the pump, I left my wallet at home.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I left my wallet at home. And I've got a quarter of a tank. I'm 90 minutes from home.
Yeah, it's
This
still
is what
200 miles away from Houston.
I don't have either way to go. Here's what I realize. This is the power of networking. Now, again, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but because there were like so many great little stories in this whole thing, but this day that went from stressful to blissful. I got to go to the chief at the appraisal district, and I have to say, Chief, I brought you a thank you note, and by the way, I need cash to get to Houston. I kid you not. That was my only option.
Wow.
My only. So got my husband on the phone, and he's saying, "Hey, Cheryl, I don't know what to do," because he's headed to something else too, right? And so I'm like, I go in, and he said, "Cheryl, I got 20 for you."
Wow.
And that was just the beginning. He got me to Houston, and then I was trying to get to Sam's to get gas, but then that meeting ran long, and so as I'm walking out telling them why I was looking for a Sam's, the gal says, "Here's another 20. I want you to have this 20 in your pocket." That got me back because I missed Sam's. I couldn't find Sam's. And I found myself halfway between Houston and Madisonville in the middle of nowhere. Can you believe it? But the beauty of that, the end of the story is I posted on LinkedIn. Do you know how many people said, "Oh my gosh, Cheryl," at the end of that story, I said, "Hey, the deal of the day was I realized that kindness still existed."
Mm-hmm.
A guy ponied up $3 on the pump extra because he heard my story at the cash register. So kindness still exists and God is good. And so many people said, "Cheryl, I needed to hear that today," right? And so isn't that the beauty of networking? So taking a stressful situation that out of those relationships helped me get to Houston and back, didn't miss any meeting. And then I was able to post it and have some other people say they were so blessed by that story. So anyway,
That's huge.
I know, just to be in a community of people where we can lift each other up, right?
Yeah.
It was just an edification moment. So there we go. So
That's a double grand slam.
It was really good. It's really good. So Steve Conwell, he is a one of a kind. I can't wait to have this discussion when we come back. Let's face it, employees waste time on the company dime. Why? Life's complicated. We help keep the junk of life out of the workplace and in the hands of the experts. Empowered Advantage, empowering employees, giving businesses the advantage. Letter M as in magnificent, poweredadvantage.com. Rob, you get an award. Do you know what that award's for?
What is it, Cheryl?
Getting a ringer in the house like Steve Conwell. Oh my gosh. How'd you pull that one off?
Well, that's my UNT connections.
Oh, is it? Y'all like
Absolutely.
bleed green?
I'm telling you what,
Yeah.
bleeding green is like it's the talk of the town.
It is right now.
The only thing is, I went to UNT when it was NTSU before this guy was even born.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, they'll forgive you. Just make a nice, handsome donation.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
So, Steve Conwell, if you don't know him, get to know him. I want you to find him now because he's a great man to know. And when you start learning about all the alumni activities, all the associations that not only you're involved in, Steve, but on the president and on the board, and you're running this, and you have your own company. How in the world do you do it?
Very carefully, right? No, I mean, you have to love it. You have to love people and kind of getting out there and making a difference and all that and balancing your time for sure.
Yeah.
But it's fun. Yeah, it's fun getting out there.
It is fun. So the goal of the show is to talk about networking, right?
Yep.
So we want to talk about, and it's not just about glad handing. It's about, and you're very strategic. You are a strategist. Right, so Final Ascent is his company. So Steve Conwell on LinkedIn, great place to find him. You'll see the bio there. But you're so strategic. It just blows my mind on how because I'm sure you quantify it all. How you can be on all these boards, and let's go through the boards, right? So you have the AMA, the Association of Mergers and Acquisitions, right?
I'm a member of that. I'm the president of the Dallas chapter of the Exit Planning Exchange. Launched that in May, so we've got 70 members right now and growing. So excited about that. I'm on the board. University of North Texas is, so UNT now.
Right.
Ryan College of Business, the Dean Advisory Board. I'm the president of our Denton County Alumni Association. So excited about that and kind of work with the board, the Alumni Association board quite a bit. And I'm on the board, it's called the AEC Equities. So we're a private equity group and we buy construction, engineering, light industrial, and manufacturing firms. So it's fun. It's busy, getting out there and meeting the folks.
How do you make money from this? So obviously you're making connections internally. How are you turning these relationships through these associations, alumni, board positions into money?
Part of it, I have this kind of mantra of helping others be successful. I kind of live my whole life that way. So if you look at it and you say it's just about making money, it's not going to work. People sniff that out, right? So it's about, one, choosing your time well.
Yeah.
And what you're passionate about, what you enjoy, whether it's a cause, UNT, I bleed green. Almost wore green today. But then, rolling your sleeves up and saying, what paths I want to take with it. So I always like leading things. So I'll come in at a certain level, but I want to lead it and build the direction and the path and where it's going to go. But then the other side of it is balancing your time. Mm-hmm. So there's some things like I can't go every time, right? But I'll come periodically. And then when I get there, it's being strategic about, okay, I'm going to talk to these 5 folks. Mm-hmm. Or this person leads the group. Who should I visit with? And then just sit down and talk and have intentional conversations. How do you help them? What do they do?
Yeah.
What are they passionate about?
Yeah.
Where do they see themselves? And how can you help them get there for sure?
So, and you're right, it can't be about the money, but ultimately at some point it has to have an ROI at the end of that. Yeah. So how do you maybe compartmentalize, or how do you manage your time so that you can make sure as you're building these relationships and hopefully getting to the ROI at some point that you can justify all the things that you're a part of?
Yeah, part of it, you've got to be obviously really good at your calendar. So I'm way in advance on recurring meetings, when they're going to happen. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'll stack up more with meetings. Monday, Friday, I try to keep them more open by design. Mm-hmm. And then I'm evaluating, there's only so many evenings out of the day wife's going to tolerate, right? Mm-hmm. So managing that. And then from an ROI perspective, so I have this kind of little thing I've coined about the 90-10 rule. And really 10% of your network is going to provide 90% of your referrals.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right. So how do you care and feed them? And how do you grow and nurture those relationships? And I've always found it's by helping them. Hey, you need to talk to so-and-so, or here's an opportunity. We don't do that. Let me bridge the gap, bring them in. Let's have a meeting and talk about it and make other people successful, grow their businesses. And then, I'll have people that'll call me. It'll be 6 years you haven't chatted with them. And suddenly it's, hey, you need to talk to so-and-so. Here's this opportunity. And they call because of the relationships you've built over time.
So credibility, right?
Yeah, authenticity, transparency. Yeah. I always say honesty, integrity, and character 100% matters, right?
Right.
So, yeah, you've got to be that way in all things that you do, in my book, because if you're not, and I sniff the opposite, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to refer you if I don't feel like you have that character, for sure.
Yeah, well, that only makes sense. Have you been a part of alumni associations?
Not an alumni. No, I have not. My big associations have been in nonprofits and chamber organizations.
Right. So those are very business specific, and yours is very industry specific. So you have a lot of very industry specific. So I'd like to zero in on the non-industry specific, which is the alumni, because most of us do have an alumni association, and we've touched on this on several podcasts. Mm-hmm. Tap into those because that's a wealth of network already built in. And we're all trying to help each other and do business together. And at some point, we're like-minded, right? At some point. So how do you go into an alumni group that you're so avidly a part of? And like you said, you like to participate and have some kind of leadership position. That's just who you are, right? Affect change.
I can't help.
That's right. Oh, no, it's great. It's great. We need that. But how do you go into an alumni association, if we just want to zero in on that, and say, I'm going to look at this as part of my business building tool as well? How does that happen for somebody who's not done that?
Yeah, so if you haven't done it before, if you go in immediately with that intention in mind, I don't believe it's going to work, right? So if you're wanting to be involved, you really got to understand the culture. Where is the alumni association? What's the organizational structure? How do they come together? How do they put events on? So really all those dynamics are important because you're working with volunteers. They're all volunteers, right? Some are super passionate about it. Some are the resume builders that you get. And then where's the goals and objectives for the chapter, and start to kind of build it out and get that kind of next level. Here's where we're going to go while you're building relationships. The one thing that I have found is somebody reaches out to me because let's say that we were both part of, I used to work for Ernst & Young as an example, and that's the connection and we chat. But if it's immediately off of that and, hey, can you help me do X? As opposed to, you have to be careful with alumni associations. If I go on like Sales Navigator, right? University of North Texas, X years, company size, and 250 people show up, and I immediately use my UNT alumni hook and then go jump right into what I do, that's not going to work, right?
Yep.
And so
Yep.
for me, relationship building, it's a thing that's over time. You can't expect, you may want to expect something out of it, but if you go into it expecting business, I tend to think that some things start to, it just doesn't pan out as well. But it is a thing over time. Like I've been involved with the Alumni Association for, as far as, president stuff and things like that. This is my 3rd year. But I didn't immediately go and jump in and just, who are the guys that own companies, and I'm going to start chatting with them, because people see through that.
That they do, that you're leveraging that position to leverage.
Correct.
Right.
And that to me, there's not, I don't know, it's just not authentic.
Yeah.
And there's not integrity in my mind in doing it that way.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with you. I concur. Thoughts, Rob?
Well, I think too, building that relationship and not jumping into, the juggler there. It's you're creating a bond. So if it takes a few months, a year or two, then it comes up, hey, we're both from UNT. Then you can start sort of sharing some UNT stories. Right. But again, it's over time, and you've bonded over other things. So it's not just, because like you said earlier, is that people are going to see through that.
Yeah.
But to have that special bond, you have to have certain things, and there's the bond of the alumni with UNT. So.
Yeah, and it's, all the posts that I'll do about it, and hey, we went down to the Capitol like a month ago to advocate for funding and things like that. People see that, so they know you're actually involved.
Right.
Yeah.
And some people will reach out, hey, I'm graduating from UNT, and they're excited about it. Oh my gosh, you guys are doing this, and helping them get into the fold on the Alumni Association. And then eventually you'll talk about what you do and bring that in, and how do I help them be more successful in what they're doing, and vice versa, for sure.
Yeah, right now we're in the process of growing the Farmers Branch Rotary Club, and again, we want volunteers to help support our community. So it's not all about what do you do?
Correct.
What can I get from you? Yeah, so it's the same type of thing. It's so getting that bond, getting people to volunteer. It's just so important. It's so much fun, as you talked again earlier about. So I love it.
Yeah. It's exciting to see the spirit build in these alumni associations. Raising like the chamber you're talking about. There's a common result that everybody's wanting to achieve, and kind of you're seeing that momentum build, and it takes time, decades to do this, right?
Right.
But getting more talented individuals is part of it. So part of my job is kind of seeing talent out there, like the previous gentleman. Hey, went to UNT. Like to reach out. Hey, why don't you come see the Alumni Association? But monetizing it. A lot of people don't look at their network. They're tremendous networkers. They're everywhere. You see them. They talk to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, but they never wonder why they don't build traction in their career. And it's just because you're doing too much. You spread yourself so thin.
Absolutely.
How can you subset it to people that really can help? Now you've still got the cause. You're still doing X, but you're really care and feeding that network that can help you, and vice versa.
Yeah, to your point, people are, they're going out to these new events week after week after week, collecting more business cards. But again, it's, what I'm doing is I'm cutting it down so I can spend time with the people.
Yeah.
Yes.
From the past, so I can develop that stronger. So I don't need a huge community. I need a smaller community that I can work. And become authentic with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That is so true. It's kind of like when you spread yourself too thin, you're of no use to anybody.
Right.
And you're not building strong, authentic, relationships that are long term.
Yeah.
And they know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to call so and so and invite them to here. I don't remember you at all. I mean, you never reached out to me.
Right.
That's
So true.
becoming a real person, building that trust through authenticity, and drilling down through these specific, also these other organizations that are very specific. So you have the alumni, which is general, but a great organization. Then you have these very specific strategic associations, and that helps you fuel everything, right? Does it, I mean, I would imagine it all works together.
It's, I mean, you know, the Alumni Association for me, I mean, my son's going there. We're like third generation UNT. So, you know, if I got caught, it probably would be green, right? So for me, it's that just care and feeding and love for doing that.
Yeah.
And then very specific targeted organizations for what I do.
Right.
You know, so if I were to get some referral from a UNT person, for me, that'd be more gravy. But am I doing that to build and expand specifically what I do? Not as much, because I'm very targeted on several other organizations that absolutely do what I do or are adjacent industries, so we don't compete and we can refer business together.
But it's a beautiful recipe. So if you're considering what do I do, I mean, take a look at this model. Be a part of an alumni association, but also balance it out with very strategic, specific, professional organizations that are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, all right, Steve. So it's Steve Conwell, Conwell, right? The easy way, but you know, you never know.
You have to slow it down. Yep.
That's right. Final Ascent is his company. So again, connect with him on LinkedIn. I want to know a little known fact about yourself that we'd be like, what? Oh my goodness gracious, Steve. We shouldn't have invited you here.
I'll do a couple weird ones. So I used to do calligraphy for like PR firms and stuff like that in college. So I do like an invitation card and calligraphy, and I get like $6 a card. And so, you know, 2 hours of work, I'd make like $300 doing that. So that was kind of a unique thing. And I don't know why I can do this, but I can write forward, backwards, upside down and backwards, and upside down and forwards. And I don't really know why I can.
Oh my God.
So
No
kind of a
kidding.
stupid human trick.
Wow,
It doesn't
that
get me
is,
anything,
that
but
is awesome.
That's fabulous. Well, that's why you're doing all of these things. Final Ascent, right?
It's so cool.
The full 360-degree sphere of man. Yes, that's amazing. So you could write in Hebrew.
it may look
Is it-
like Greek or Hebrew, yeah.
Well, but they're left to right.
Oh, the art, yeah. It's
So-
it's interesting. I mean, I don't know why I can do it that way, but
That's fascinating. And now, note to self: if ever I'm on the other side of the desk and I'm writing a note, you're reading what I'm writing. I know as a lifetime salesperson, I'm like, I can read upside down and back. I can't write it, but I can read
she's
upside
like,
down.
this is ridiculous.
That's right. That's right. This is so good. Oh, Steve, we appreciate you. Can't wait to have you back.
Thank you very much.
Cheers to you, my friend.
Cheers.
All right.
Go Mean Green.
All right.
That's right. And we will be back.
A small business is still a business. At Purple Cow Branding, we want to help you execute your greatest visions for your company. Purple Cow works for small businesses that don't have big budgets to spend on their marketing efforts. Inquire now at purplecowbranding.com to be the biggest little guy around. Purple Cow Branding, much more than digital marketing.
Steve is such a bigger than life character. I love hanging with Steve. And his wife is delightful as well.
Yes, I've met them both.
Y'all
yes.
need to double date.
Yeah.
Y'all need to be to Conwell.
She's a lot of fun. And, you know, and what to me sets Steve apart, his heart is just so big.
Yeah.
He's got a giant heart.
Yeah. Just like his giant personality.
Yes, exactly.
It is.
Exactly.
Now, there's this great article we were just talking about off camera. What we really felt was a great takeaway from our discussion with Steve. And you said,
Well, it was the fact that, you know, he's into networking because he wants to build relationships,
Right.
strong relationships.
yeah,
He doesn't, it's not about the quantity, it's the quality.
right.
He wants to give back. He wants
Yeah.
to be a value added resource to his network, you know, his association community there.
Yeah.
And again, that's where his big heart comes out.
Yeah.
And, and what I liked is that, I kind of challenged him a little bit by saying, hey, we're doing this networking thing for money. But no, he just comes right back to, no, we've got to build those connections.
Well, and to the point of, so you have some networking things that you'll be a part of that are purely relationship building. And at some point, a business transaction will come out of it. At some point it will, but this one is by and large the alumni stuff is by and large relationship building. And there's a great article that I found on Indeed.com on that. And really the whole crux of the article is it is building relationships, not selling your business.
Right.
Now, what we talked to Steve about too was that he's a part of so many associations and other networking groups that he has that other layer, those other components that are more transactionally driven, right? So they're relational, but that we're all selling a product at the end of that rainbow. So relationship over here, he's working that pool, that all those people, and then they all begin to interconnect in these more transactional networking groups that are more intentionally built for doing business, right?
Yeah, it's kind of that old saying of what comes around goes around. That again, when you build and focus on the relationship, sooner or later, something will happen. And again, it doesn't have to be transactional.
Yeah.
Again, it can go back to being introduced to somebody else.
Yeah.
But it's the value of the bonding of the community that brings that value.
Yeah. And so one of the things that we had talked about with Steve was smart people go into alumni groups asking questions about the other business owners, which leads me to my word of the week, which is inquisitive.
Ooh.
Be inquisitive.
Yes.
You can't go wrong going into a relationship building situation by asking questions. And the smart people that we have on here, they're all smart. I swear to you, every single one of them ask great questions. They're adept at that. They come prepared for that.
Yeah.
And that's what elevates them.
Absolutely.
So I love the whole alumni association thing because selfishly, I think I need to do it more. So maybe this got me on track.
It was a great learning lesson for me of that, because that's something I've completely neglected. Hadn't thought about that, but just seeing how Steve has become involved. He's showing his leadership ability. He's showing the value he gives back to his alumni. It really was an eye opener for me.
Yeah, super great. So I know you have some great action items for us as we wrap this up.
Well, here, and these come from both Steve and from the article that you read to us. Is number one is join one of your, alumni. Just join it. The other key thing that Steve talked about was participate. Be a volunteer.
Yeah.
Again, it's not like you have to do it every week, every month, but participate, get involved. And number three was, again, I really loved what Steve said with that big heart was, be a go-giver.
Yeah.
And so those three things, guys. Do those things, and it'll affect, help you in your alumni reconnection, but also affect you in all your networking.
That's right. So if you are a part of UNT grad group, right? Any of them, if you've been there, connect with Steve. I mean, make sure you get on and make sure you rope Robin.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
And then ask him for a picture of his NTSU card. It's hilarious.
Right. Dated 1973.
That's right. So we want to hear from you. info@networktodaydfw.com. We love comments. We love topics. So give us some more topics. We want that. And cheers to you, my friend. Another great show.
Yep.
Network Today, where we take you from meeting people to
making money
faster. All right. So see you next week.
This has been a Purple Cow production.